I loved video games ever since I was in elementary school. Well, you could say I was what they call a nerd. I loved them so much that by the time I was in high school, I started making my own video game. Spending all day locked up in my room working on video game meant I didn't have many close friends, so I was always alone. I don't know if it was because of this or if it's just my personality, but by the time I started learning programming in college, the girls had kindly nicknamed me the skilled but kinda creepy nerd.
Don't worry. You are a winner as long as you are doing what you love, no matter what others say.
My mom, always laughing and saying these words, was so social and cheerful that I sometimes wondered if she really was my real mother. When I was in high school, my dad passed away from cancer, so it's just been two of us. But thanks to my cheerful mom, I never felt lonely. Eventually, I graduated and became a working adult. I landed a job at a major game company, which had been my dream, and I was excited to work there every day. Most of the time, I didn't talk to anyone, just staring at the computer screen all day. This job was perfect for me, and thanks to my salary, I could finally give my mom, who worked as a nanny, a bit of break. But all that ended after 3 years. I was chosen to join a team for a big company-wide project. However, a colleague named John stole my ideas. When I protested to the company, they immediately pressured me to resign. The company chose John, who was popular and got along well with the bosses, over a low-key employee like me. I have never resented my post-social skills more than that period of time. A year has passed since then. I've been job hunting, but I'm still unemployed. Living off my savings, my mom, seeing me just lounging around at home, yelled at me.
Get off your butt. A young man like you shouldn't be lazing around. It's driving me nuts watching you. Get up and do some work, anything.
She yanked off my blanket and flung the windows wide open. What do you mean by anything? In a rush, I snatched back the blanket and wrapped it around myself.
The company I'm working for is hiring janitors for the building. The boss was saying they're short on men, so I recommended you for the job. You have an interview this evening.
A janitor? I don't want that kind of job.
Don't be picky. You can't babysit, can you? Now get up.
The blanket was yanked off me again, and I tumbled out of the bed.
It's not a customer service, so you won't have to deal with people much. And cleaning can be therapeutic. When you're polishing a floor, it's like you're cleansing your soul. It's the perfect job for you right now. Understand? Don't make your mom look bad.
With a stern voice, Mom exited the room humming a tune. Since then, I've been working part-time as a janitor. At first, I was reluctant, but it turned out to be a good job for me. We mostly work in pairs, but usually, we're each on a different floor doing our own thing. There are many senior staff members, and it was nice that the women staffs were rather quiet. And just like Mom said, the act of mindlessly polishing brought a sense of accomplishment. Looking at the shiny windows and floors felt refreshing. Thanks to the physical work, my daily meals tasted better. I thought I might continue this janitor job when suddenly, trouble happened.
Hey, aren't you Anderson?
While I was cleaning in a new building, a voice called out to me. I turned around to see my old coworker, John.
Definitely, it's Anderson. Why are you dressed like that?
John laughed loudly, slapping my shoulder. I said nothing and looked down.
A janitor? Seriously? That's hilarious.
He slapped my shoulder again and again, and I snapped, "That hurts, you know."
Sorry, man. But it's good to see you. I work in this company now. After you left, I got headhunted. Remember that software I made? It hit big.
I clenched my fist hearing the software I made. The nerve of him to say it so casually.
This company's been growing super fast. It's hard being in the spotlight as the hitmaker, you know?
"Excuse me, I'm working." Leaving John, who was still bragging, I walked away. I had a sinking feeling in my chest and felt miserable. Every day after that, John would mess with me. He'd deliberately bump into me, knocking over buckets or spilling the coffee I was carrying onto the freshly polished hallway. It's the kind of bullying you'd expect from grade schoolers, yet he'd do it every day without getting bored. I just endured it all. I didn't want to pick a fight because it might bring trouble to my mom.
Seems like you've got a lot on your plate, ho.
One evening, while I was absent-mindedly watching TV with a beer, my mom spoke to me. "What do you mean a lot?"
Don't play dumb. I've heard about it from the chief, you know.
Mom cracked open a can of beer and sat down next to me.
John is that guy who stole your plan in your previous company, right?
I couldn't help but smirk at her way of putting it. It's not a plan, call it an idea.
It's all the same. Besides, I heard the harassment's been pretty bad. Everyone's worried about you.
How do you even know all this? You work in the babysitting department, right?
Don't underestimate my network. Unlike you, I have lots of friends.
She finished her beer and gave me a stern look.
So, aren't you upset to be treated like that by such a guy?
Well, I am upset, but...
Then get back at him with your work.
She stood up and handed me a piece of paper from her work bag. When I looked, it was a flyer that read in bold letters, "Freelancers welcome. Seeking innovative game software."
The lady I'm babysitting for, her mom's the CEO of that company.
You mean the building there? The company name mentioned at the bottom was the same as where I currently work, and where John is.
Yes. When I mentioned you, she gave me this. How about it? A chance to get back at him.
I stared at the flyer, completely absorbed.
Being a janitor is a proper job. But it's not what you really want to do, right? It's about time you got back into the swing of things. If you don't do it now, you're not much of a man.
She gave me a strong pat on the back and then stood up.
Just so you know, the CEO is pretty strict. Don't expect any special treatment just because you're my son. Earn your stripes on your own.
She flashed a thumbs up with a grin and said, "All right, bath time," and started humming a classic song as she walked out of the living room. Feeling ashamed that, at 27, my mom was still introducing me to job opportunities and worrying about me, I decided to give it a shot. I really wanted to prove myself in front of John. That motivation was really strong. Over the next 3 months, I juggled my janitorial duties during the day and immersed myself in software development at night. As time went on, I realized how much I loved this work, and no matter how late I stayed up, I was always excited. Thanks to that, I didn't care less about John's petty pranks. All I could think about was the software. Yes. I finally uploaded my completed software online and let out a deep sigh. The feeling of accomplishment washed over me, and I slept like a log that night. I didn't even notice when Mom put a blanket over me in the middle of the night. A week later, I went to work as usual, but I felt dizzy. I guess pushing myself finally caught up to me, and I could taste the fever in my mouth.
Are you okay? Your face is red.
Ms. Thompson, my colleague, looked at me with concern. I'm sorry. Can I leave after finishing this up?
Of course. I'll talk to Chief.
Ms. Thompson then went upstairs. I filled a bucket with water and lifted it. Suddenly, I felt wobbly and spilled some of the water.
What the hell?
I realized I made a mistake, but it was too late. To make the matter worse, the person I spilled water on was John. I'm so sorry. I'll clean it up right away. As I tried to wipe his pants with a clean towel I had, he said, "Don't touch me, you're disgusting." Pushing my hand away,
I've been thinking, why is a loser like you always around me? Get lost.
even though he was yelling at me, it was my fault, so I kept apologizing. I'm truly sorry.
I'm telling you to get lost. Are you deaf as well as dumb?
John kicked the bucket that was placed nearby. Water splashed all over me.
I've always found you annoying. I'll tell the cleaning company to fire you, so get lost.
Just then,
What's going on here?
a calm female voice spoke, and John and I both looked her way. A stern-looking woman in her late 30s, wearing a beige suit, frowned at me.
Oh, boss.
John hurriedly put the bucket back. The boss. Is she the CEO my mom mentioned?
Well, this janitor splashed water on me.
John stumbled over his words, but the CEO just glanced at him and asked me, "What's your name?" "David Anderson," I replied. The boss's face lit up when I answered.
You're Anderson. This saves me the trouble of reaching out.
The boss pulled out a handkerchief from her bag and began wiping me down. Hey, that's all right. I quickly stepped back, but the boss shook her head. No, I'm about to introduce you to everyone. We can't have our leader looking like this. It'll give everyone a shock. Confused, I looked at her, and she said, "Follow me, and you too, John." Without another word, John and I followed behind the boss. She opened a door with a sign "Product Development" and said, "Everyone, a moment, please." The boss pulled me by the arm to stand next to her. The eyes of about 30 staff members were all on me.
We're starting a big project company-wide and held a competition for software development. We had many excellent entries from within the company, but after a strict selection process, David Anderson's work was chosen.
The room erupted in cheers. I just stood there, dumbfounded.
David used to work for a major game company. He's the real brains behind the hit Xenon's Adventure series. We're honored to have such a valuable talent in our company.
Emphasizing the word real, the boss took a quick glance at John. John's face turned as pale as a ghost.
David will lead the team. We'll inform those who've been selected to be on his team. It's our biggest project this season. Let's make it a success.
Everyone clapped and smiled at me. The sudden turn of events had me completely dumbfounded. Then, the boss extended his right hand to me, whispering, "I'm truly indebted to your mom for all she's done for us. But remember, this is all about your own abilities. I've heard about what John did to you before. You don't have to worry about that here." I finally realized this was all real. In that moment, I felt the tears welling up. "I appreciate it. Thank you." I firmly shook the boss's hand. The boss gave me a big smile and nodded. The sound of warm applause was music to my ears. After that, I was hired full-time. When I greeted the cleaning company's chief, he cheerfully said, "Congratulations."
Mrs. Anderson was really worried about you. Make your mom proud?
That's when I realized just how much my mom cared for me. always with a smile, seemingly without a care in the world. My mom was always there, worrying about me. The job was tough but fulfilling. Thanks to the boss's leadership, everyone had the freedom to work in a productive environment. We might be a small company now, but I'm sure we'll grow big. I genuinely wanted to give everything for the company. John was in my team, but he didn't show any resistance. In fact, he was working really hard. The boss must have had a serious talk with him. Seeing John, who always acted so smug, working harder than anyone else made me appreciate him a bit more. All of this was thanks to my mom. I thanked her over and over again, asking what I could give her as a gift. After some thought, she responded, "A daughter-in-law and grandchildren." That's a tall order. That's what I thought, but when I said, "I'll do my best," she burst into laughter.